Prepare yourself today for a shot of wit and whiskey, of charity and chiding, of benevolence and brotherhood. My name is David DiGirolamo. I'm the sitting mayor of Union Township in Hunterdon County. And in the second episode of my new podcast, Breaking Bread in Union, we spend more than an hour of lighthearted levity with some of the best men in Hunterdon County, the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick. This podcast is about engaging extraordinary people with inspiring ideas who are making a direct local impact on our world. If that's the goal, then you can't get much better than these guys. Their Clinton St. Patrick's Day Parade is their centerpiece, but it's the work they do on the other days of the year that deserves some spotlight. What a thrill to get to tell you about them today, the Lords of the Leprechaun, our Friendly Sons of St. Patrick. So let's go. So I'm pumped to shine a light on my brothers with this one. In the studio today, we have some of the most memorable characters of the charitable organization, better known as Friendly Sons of St. Patrick of Hunterdon County, the most cheery, least svelte band of brothers in the area. The purpose for the Friendly Sons' existence is pretty simple. It's a group focused on Irish-American heritage, intent on promoting, embracing, and enjoying Irish-American culture in a positive and family-centered manner. I hope listeners can get a taste for the real flavor of this group today. This also has the makings, I'm thinking, of being the most unscripted shoot-from-the-hip podcast I'm ever going to have, and I'm hoping that the combination colors of mutual respect and playful ribbing come out. It's what I've seen since the day I joined this awesome team more than 3 years ago, and it's one of the reasons why I remain by their side. It's a genuine pleasure to be around these guys and the overall team. So let me tell you who's here tonight at Clinton Music Studios, and thank you to Matt and his team for having us again. We have Russ Crosby, the group's 8th and current president, Shane Berry, the chairman, I think for life, and one of the founders of the group, Brian Manning, the former president and the current chair of the Hunterdon County Irish Festival this year, and hopefully future years. And this year's, he says no. And this year's 2 honorees, Ken Carberry, a trustee of the group, and Jim Gibson, the chair of the annual Friendly Sons golf outing. If you asked me for a podcast Friendly Sons interviewee dream team, this is literally it. I shot for all 5 of them, and I scored them all. So thank you guys for being here. Because this podcast is called Breaking Bread in Union, I want to highlight every podcast, a local restaurant or coffee shop or eatery, by bringing in something that podcast guests can share and something that listeners might get hyped about. So tonight, I brought some cheeses from the incredible Fourchette. Do you guys, I'm assuming we all know where Fourchette is on Main Street of Clinton. Brahim is a good friend. He's a good friend of the community. He got us a Brie, Gouda, Vermont cheddar. The Gouda is the best in my personal opinion, but I'll let you guys decide for yourselves. And apparently we may or may not have some Jameson that we're passing around this evening. So hypothetical thanks to whomever brought that. So let me kick this off the right way. Let me set the hype. This podcast comes at an opportune time. The organization's Super Bowl is the annual and upcoming St. Patrick's Day Parade, an event that the Friendly Sons organize and commandeer, and it has been that way for over a decade. The parade lasts about an hour, but that hour just might arguably be the most densely populated Clinton moment of the year, with onlookers by the hundreds and a memorable, nearly standing room only after party on the grounds of the Red Mill under a tent that bustles with music, refreshments, and community-generated humidity. Friendly Sons brothers walk the grounds on that day with pride, like celebrities, superheroes clad in increasingly snug Aran sweaters. Every year, the group selects honorees, notably an Irishman of the Year and a Grand Marshal. And as mentioned, both of this year's honorees, Grand Marshal and Clinton OG, Ken Carberry, and the Irishman of the Year, Jim Gibson, are in the studio with us today. The group also highlights every year a special Olympian and a special student. I've been part of the team reaching out to those community members. I can tell you firsthand, it's a beautiful, immensely rewarding experience. It gives challenged individuals who are frequently marginalized and nearly always unheralded their moment in the Clinton midday springtime sun, waving at a raucous crowd celebrating them for a change as they pass down the parade's main artery. In recent years, Parade Week has morphed into a 3-day spectacle of joy, of jiving to music, and of course, of Jameson. For the middle-aged Italian mercenaries in the group, who shall remain nameless, it can be a weekend of Irish-inspired exhaustion. It's like tax season for accountants, but at 80 proof. By the time of the parade after party on the third day, there are hugs, hiccups, hangovers. It's an ironic juxtaposition, too. The annual event most associated with Clinton Main Street pageantry is spearheaded by a group of brothers with the least amount of pomp and circumstance. And while the parade is the most public-facing of all Friendly Sons efforts, it's just the tip of the Irish iceberg. This is a group that's engaged at all times of the year, at monthly meetings to come together to map out the upcoming schedule, on the 17th of every month to celebrate Irish history and one another, and in quiet moments of work and charity when Friendly Sons are giving back to their community, often without fanfare or public attribution. Their monthly meetings are borderline raucous affairs, and since I've been there, let me set the stage. It's about 50 or more sitting around circular tables, some old members, some new, in a scene seemingly straight off the set of Cheers, and almost including the canned laughter. We, poke fun at one another earnestly, inside jokes that might span years, and the collective seems to thrive off of it. You're not officially an indoctrinated member, it seems, until you bear the brunt of their lighthearted ribbing. Business is discussed among friends and amid blips of laughter, and these friends love each other's company. The camaraderie and joy are tangible elements of the evening. It's a genuinely fun way to spend a Tuesday night in Hunterdon County. Most people don't get to see this side of them. Many people might not even know that the scope of their community reach. But today, we check under the hood. We shine the light on this band of brothers in alms. We get the chance to hear about them, about who they are, what they do, and how important they are to our Hunterdon County community. And I'm pumped to be the one to present them to you. So welcome, brothers. I'm excited to see how this evolves and devolves in the next hour. So let's go. So let's start with the early days. And I have to say that it's interesting because my experience with the Friendly Sons mimics that of the group itself. I first learned of you when I came cold calling on Shane and Mary Beth Berry's door for my primary campaign for Township Committee in 2021. You told me about it, Shane, and I was immediately intrigued. We spent 4 hours together in your kitchen that day. I had a lot of questions. And I've always had a gravitational pull to you and to Mary Beth and what the Berry clan was up to. And I also know that you were one of the 4 founding fathers of the group almost 20 years ago. You 4 are considered the 4 Irish horsemen of the group. Pretty important britches, though picturing you on a horse mainly just makes me giggle.
It's got to be a big horse.
That was a big horse. That was a big horse. Yeah.
So
that was a big horse.
So let me shut up. Tell us a bit about how this all began, Shane, and really what you were hoping to achieve.
The initial part of it was really, it was a bunch of Irish dance dads, and we were at the Somerville parade, and our daughters were dancing, and we used to go to a certain spot in the parade route, and there was a parking lot very close, so we could put a car there very early, have whatever things we needed for the parade. There was also a metal, fenced gate around trees that I used as a playpen. I would put my other children in there so that they could be corralled during the parade. And we were standing there, we're watching a parade, waiting for our daughters, and all of a sudden we're looking going, Hunterdon County has nothing. Just kind of stupid. So we decided we should do something. Then, of course, we went years without doing anything. And, eventually got to a point where we're like, okay, we really should try to do something. So we got together. We wound up getting 12 guys to actually sit down in a room. And that was our first meeting. It was in 2008. And there were times during the early years where there was one meeting where Gary Sanderson was the only guy there. He came to the meeting. He's like, "Is anybody else coming?" And nobody else could.
But he had the checkbook.
He did have the checkbook. But I mean, it was so hard because we had 12 guys, and not all those guys were terribly committed. It was a good idea, and we met a couple of times, and then some people fell by the wayside. Others came in. But as we kind of built and went forward, we looked at the way we were doing things and kind of what we wanted to approach. And our early approach was to choose someone to raise money for. And it wasn't until really probably our third or fourth year in the golf outing where we decided, you know what, there's too many people that need help. Let's kind of put together our own charitable foundation and make this work for more people. I think early on, if I'm being honest, I don't think our membership grew that much because I think it looked to most wives like it was husbands just getting together, a bunch of Irish guys and going out drinking. They really didn't do anything. And then as we really started to actually do stuff, I think more guys were allowed to join the organization, and it started to grow. I mean, did I ever think it'd be this? Absolutely not. Never.
Was this meant to be more social or charitable or both?
Both. It was always intended to be both. And I know Morristown is very social-oriented, and that's really who we kind of leaned on early when we were trying to set up what we did.
Shane,
yeah, Russ, go ahead.
Why don't you kind of explain, there are other Friendly Sons organizations throughout the entire country. We're not the only one. So you just touched on Morristown. So Morristown is probably the closest one to us, but Baltimore.
It's a loose,
Brian.
It's a loose assembly of chapters, nationwide chapters, but there's no actual nationwide governing body. So we're all kind of completely independent.
I think the one in Philadelphia is probably the biggest.
Yeah, but it goes back. It goes back to
I think
the
Morristown's the biggest.
It goes back to the 1780s. The first Friendly Sons organization was set up in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia in 1783. And George Washington and Benjamin Franklin actually were members of that chapter.
They were bringing Irish immigrants over.
They were helping to bring in, support Irish immigrants.
Do we do that?
We do. Yes. We do everything. Yeah. So it's a very old organization, but it's kind of a loose assembly of chapters, nationwide chapters, and we set our own rules. We set our own.
Yeah, we share a name, but there was a call at one point when they decided to bring everybody together, and it was in Baltimore. I don't remember, years ago, and there was a call to try to unify the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, and in essence, everybody's like, no. Pretty much. Yeah, Ken said it better than I did, but it was really kind of like, no, we like doing it our way. We don't want to do it your way. So we decided that sharing a name was fine, and we could all talk about what we did, but we all just kind of went our own way.
How did you woo people to the group in the early days?
I have not wooed anybody ever in my life. You've already used words that have never been said in
bullshit.
Yeah. I think
he can woo people. He woos people.
To introduce the importance of Bill Healy's Crystal Shop.
Yep.
Because
that's true.
That became the vehicle, or whatever you want to call it. That became the crossing place, and that's how I joined. And whenever something needed to get done, we gathered at Healy's Crystal Shop.
I went into Healy's. I moved from Connecticut to New Jersey in 2012 with two very young kids, and we were just down in Clinton one day, and I walked into the store because I'm actually a big fan of Irish Crystal, and saw Bill. And I'm native Irish. I was born and raised in Dublin, and as soon as I saw Bill, we started chatting. And
because he's Irish as well.
Yeah, he's from Kilkenny, and within 5 minutes he had me joined up, literally, like just manning.
He was a machine.
Was Bill one of the original 12?
No.
Oh. Shortly after.
But he came afterwards, and only his wife really actually made him join. Billy was not. I don't know if you noticed. He doesn't really travel well. He kind of does his own thing. So I think Michelle.
I wish I had a picture we could put on the podcast at the same time. We're not at Rogan levels yet, but yeah. So who were the other three that are part of the four horsemen?
Early on, it was me, Pat Whalen, Bernie Gallagher,
Pat
Barrett,
Ken Oldham.
Kenny wasn't there. He wasn't with the original four, but he was right in on it. And Eddie Gibney, who was in for a while and is not in anymore.
And were you guys just all buddies?
We all, how do I say this the right way? We all
Just
were fathers of Irish dancers.
Okay. So you were sitting around with
They
them.
were
Not
all
much
at
to
the
do.
practices.
They were what?
Forever.
They were all at the practices forever.
Twiddling the
Irish
thumbs.
dance is very much like Disneyland. Like if you have any money left at the end, you have to throw it in something shaped like a mouse. You're not allowed to have any. So it's, you just kind of, it becomes what you do. Now, we all knew each other because we were all kind of local guys. And then, we all kind of realized that they're sitting in there. We need something to do. Then we all realized we had another common thing. We didn't mind having a drink or two here and there. So as we started getting onto it and talking about things, it just started to build. And then getting that first 12 together, was a different thing. It was pretty neat. But again, no one saw this coming.
I joined in 2012, and there were 32 members. I'm not sure how many had paid, but there were 32 members.
You were the first, by the way.
That's why they made you the trustee.
I joined in 2013. I was the 40th member.
What year?
That would be
2013.
Okay.
And one Saturday morning, against my better wishes, because I was very hungover, we went down to the town restaurant, and there were 6 of us. And somebody said, well, why don't we do a parade? And then I'll fast forward to the following March after we got our parade. And I was walking next to Bill Healy. We went down Lower Center Street, and we saw the bridge, and the people were 12 deep on the bridge. And I said, Bill, holy shit, it worked.
Yeah, I remember you told me the story of like going down Halstead Street and you turn the dog leg left.
The
And
parade route is we went down and we turned right and we went towards the
bridge.
The bridge. And I was the Irishman of the Year, and Pat Whalen was the Grand Marshal of the parade. And we were talking. There was a few people clapping. They're like, okay, people come out and they clap for fat guys in sweaters. That's wonderful. Thank you. You use not svelte, which I think is quite charming. I used to refer to it as if Jimmy Dean started knitting sausages. That's what we would look like. But we came down and it was like we would make the turn and we headed towards the bridge, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God. It was packed. It was a beautiful day. It couldn't have been any better. But it was mobbed. And the same kind of feeling. We looked at each other like, holy shit, it worked. I can't believe it. It worked. And it was, first of all, everybody said there's no way we could ever have a parade. Ken was instrumental in making sure that we could have a parade. No way anybody would go along with this. And they all did. And then it worked.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's funny you bring that up. And I know this is like a joking kind of group, but there's something really amazing about those few and far between moments where you realize that you've done something special and you didn't expect it. I think those are just some of the most beautiful moments in my life. It's just, I didn't realize I would make an impact, and then I did. And it's like, holy shit, like people are inspired, and it's such a proud feeling. And I wish I was walking next to you, because I know you like to mess around, but just the thought of realizing, wow, we really touched a good nerve with this community, and it makes you want to do it more. It makes you, it's like an addiction to joy and to spreading good energy. Does that resonate with you guys?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it too with this organization, like the way it grew and the way it came about. Like, I was in it from the beginning, but I mean, I might not have known any of these guys. Our circles may or may not have crossed. Who knows? But I know everybody in this room has made super, great friends they'll be friends with for the rest of their lives through this organization. And, that to me is the biggest part of it. Because I think when we talk about culture and we talk about camaraderie, the camaraderie is what drives the entire thing. You can have a bunch of people who really don't get along and nothing gets done. With us, we all get along and everybody's making friends. And we've had members who were really important to us who, when they were talking, said the reason they joined the organization was to make friends. And they found a place to do that. So, I think that speaks to the organization as much as anything.
I gotta tell you, probably my best moment. Well, not my best moment, but the moment I certainly won't forget is it was like Christmas 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and it was at not our traditional location, it was the one with the Santa Claus.
VFW.
Okay. And I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Rich or somebody. Oh, no, it was you, Russ. You brought up, you said, I'd like to have Dave stand up.
Yep.
And then I'd like to have Dan Allen stand up. And you guys congratulated us. This is sort of funny because we got divorced about 4 months later. But
yeah, sorry
you
about
said
that.
it wasn't your fault. But
Actually, you were named as the catalyst in this.
I will take ownership of that.
But what was amazing is that I have to say, like in any situation where it's a bunch of only men, right? Especially in Hunterdon County, even though I feel like I might be the most well-known gay man in the county.
What?
There's always not closeted gay man in the county. Let's just say.
Could have fooled me, Dave.
Yeah, I just love the fact.
Home Alone.
Well, half of you are pretty good kissers. I'll just say that.
No,
Half. The fact that you acknowledged us was a really cool thing.
I just like to say that's another thing I never saw coming when we started. You guys come in. We've never acknowledged an anniversary of anyone ever.
Yeah.
Ever. That's the only time. One time in the history of the entire organization.
I gotta say, like that particular evening, it was a modified meeting because it was around the holidays, and a few of us.
To be clear, it was our 20th anniversary.
Yeah,
that's what you guys were acknowledging.
Yeah, so it was your 20th anniversary, and both of you walked into our meeting, and I mean, you can't ask for a stronger brotherhood if that's how you're going to choose to spend your anniversary, right? So, like, yeah, I couldn't let that go unnoticed or unacknowledged. So, yeah, like for sure, in the past couple of years, there has been so many cool things that from my position, I've been able to witness. So many kids have been born, a lot of babies, right? Like Jim, how many? Two.
Both.
You had two?
Both of our children.
Yeah, I've had.
I'm
about to have my fourth while I've been involved with this organization.
You guys need to buy TVs.
Yeah, we should get TVs. Yeah, no, you're not the first person to tell me that.
We just got a 65 inch.
I would have to say, like, Jim, what do you think? Like, probably at least 20 kids, maybe 15, 20?
Yeah, 15 to 20 sounds about right. Because
Since you guys got in.
Since we
were younger in the
in,
beginning too.
Yeah, Shane doesn't know if he's having any more, but
yes, he does.
He's been to the vet.
But the big part of this organization is our focus is really helping our community, but the brotherhood is so important, and when really incredible events come up, like a 20-year anniversary or a child being born or something along those lines, we want to celebrate that because, like Shane said before, we've evolved from being brothers from being strangers to becoming family. And we really care about what's going on. And we've, this year's been a little tough too, because we've lost a couple brothers. That was really hard on the organization, and we hadn't experienced that until this year. But you know what? I think in that aspect, we've also done it right, where the brotherhood came together, the families came together, and we celebrated life. And in the Irish culture, that's what that's about, right? Passing on is a celebration of life. So from the beginning to the end, the Friendly Sons really focus in on the family. And if the family's right, then we can do right by the community.
And we have traditions within the Friendly Sons. So when a baby is born, we have a Irish tradition called wetting the baby's head.
Yes, sir.
Where we all get around and we make a presentation to the family, usually like some gifts for the baby and so on. Then we get a bottle of Jameson. Everybody has the Jameson shot, and this is what's known as wetting the baby's head. And then when some member passes, then we play the parting glass, and again we raise a glass to the brother and we sing the song, and we remember them, and we also do whatever we can to reach out to the family and make sure that they're looked after as well.
Yeah, Brian, I think when you were president, Fiona was born, And when you said that, make sure you come to the next meeting because we're going to have the wedding of the baby's head, I told my wife that, and she had no idea. She's like, you are not taking our daughter to one of your meetings. I said,
we are not baptizing her at one of your meetings.
Yeah, I had no idea. So I had to report back that it was just some Jameson, and she was cool with that.
So I think we've just touched on the brotherhood, which is very much alive and well and growing. And I think with that, and we're going to talk about this in a bit, but with that growth probably comes challenges as well, kind of like a boy band that becomes super successful. And next thing you know, everybody wants to do their own sort of solo acts and stuff. But and we'll get into that in a sec. But I want to focus on charity. I want to focus on giving back to the community right now. Our efforts have gotten larger with each passing year. And more formalized, I think, as a consequence of that growth. And Shane touched upon it before. Tell us about the process of selection, the process of consideration. How should people who don't know that much about our organization think about it?
I'll take the first bit. The first bit,
Brian.
so we are a 501c3 organization. So we've gone through the federal and state process whereby we are an official charity. And we also, I'm very proud of the fact that we run it extremely efficiently. There's no overhead with the Friendly Sons. Every single dime we make in excess of what it costs to put on our events, we give back to the community. And then I'll let Russ talk a bit about our we have a select group of brothers who oversee our charitable donation committee.
Yeah, so
Russ.
We have a group within the group, and it's made up of 5 members, and we have a funding committee chair who receives all of these requests and asks for donations. And within that group, they vet them and they see, whether this is something that we can help with, can we get them help? Because not only has the group grown in size since its inception, but the connections that we've made have helped springboard us forward to really help the community in a much different capacity. So working with other organizations within this county, we can now take people that are requesting help or aid and say, okay, look, it comes to our funding committee, but now we can say, okay, listen, we think this organization over here can probably help you out, can put you on a plan, get you headed in the right direction. We're still here to help you, and we work with those other organizations. Mm-hmm. So over the last few years, we've really worked hard to build those relationships, and it has helped so many families in this county.
This is almost like triage.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's triage. Mm-hmm. So
And is it only Hunterdon County, Russ?
Yes.
So do you is that fairly strict that it's?
So I might ruffle a little feathers here, but it's only Hunterdon County right now. But in the future, we would look to. I personally would like to look to be able to help in certain circumstances people outside of the county.
So let's put some perspective on this. So when you first started, what would you say, Shane, was the first year that you started to throw money to others in the form of assistance?
Our first year, we had just really pretty much started, and we're going forward when we decided that we should have a golf outing. We didn't really know how to run one, but we decided to have one anyway.
Right?
And if I'm remembering correctly, it was for someone. Like there was someone whose child had passed or something.
He passed. He had 4 children. He was really big in the North Hunter Little League. It'll come to me. I can't remember at the moment, which is stupid. But so we were having this golf outing. We're like, hey, these people need help. Let's just do the golf outing for them. And that was kind of how the initial...
This is what, 2007, 2008?
7, probably 8.
I think it was 7. Yeah, the first golf outing was 7.
Okay.
So, I mean, we put the golf outing together, and then the outside community started to see like what we're doing. And they came in, and we actually filled the first golf outing. And that kind of established us and put us on the map a little bit, because so many people from the community who had no idea that we were even doing anything now found out that we were running a golf outing to help these people.
And for him, right? His
right,
family.
and that was really the biggie.
But what would you estimate? 2007. What would you say the amount of funding that you had at your disposal was?
Not very much.
What would you just approximately?
I think it was around 25,000.
I think we made, well, that's what we grossed.
Grossed, okay.
I think then there was what we paid off and everything. So let's figure about half that maybe.
So 13, 15,
12, 13
something like
maybe.
That. So Russ, just for our understanding of this, what was it in 2024? What was the funding that was given to communities in 2024?
So last year in 2024, it was upwards of 120K we gave away as an organization.
Through
right?
different forms.
Through different forms, right, Brian? Jim? Yep. About 100. Actually, I think it was a little more than that, but I don't want to misspeak. The need never gets smaller. It never gets smaller. Right? We don't ever have a surplus of cash. Right? There's always a need somewhere. And
where do you hear about the need?
The needs come from various organizations that we work with. Family Success Center is one of them. The food pantries in Flemington, in Clinton. They were other places that we would hear people coming from. Police, EMS, fire, the fire departments. They're going on calls and they're seeing people that are desperately in need of help. And we've built relationships with a lot of those different companies to get in there and try and help. And like I said before, sometimes we might not be the best fit. There may be something else that fits better, but the need has not gone down. There are a ton of organizations out there. The challenge, and this is a challenge that we deal with also, is being seen. People don't know that we're here. They don't know that we're capable of really being able to step in and help them. We're not just an organization that puts money towards something. We will help you move your furniture. We will help you do different things.
What's the most common output for Friendly Sons? What is it?
Single moms.
Okay, well, that's the recipient, but
not your free time. They're talking about the Friendly Sons.
Speak for yourself.
No, but what is there a number one output, manifestation of charity? What is it?
I would say you'd be surprised how many calls we get for diapers. Diapers, formula, wipes, when the food pantry here, the terrible fire that happened here at Wegmans in Clinton, when that happened, there was a huge panic in this town for how people were going to be able to take care of their kids and their families. And I got to tell you, most people would not even think about that here. It would not even be on their radar.
I would not have guessed. I mean, if I had to predict, what was going to be your answer, it was not going to be diapers and wipes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like that was not on anybody's radar, but that was a big thing. And we are like a QRF team, quick reaction force. Okay, so a call comes in to our funding committee chair. Within minutes, we can have all 5 guys on the funding committee get together, make a decision, and go out and nice.
This is the one and only time I can actually open up a drink.
That's okay. It's all right. So like I was saying, we're like a QRF team here where we can get a phone call, immediately get our funding committee together, make a decision, and then move on it immediately. So when the call comes in, from the time that the call comes in to the time that we can respond is within hours. Okay, it's not days or weeks or months. It's hours, and we can get there and make a decision and make a difference. So when we had this issue at Wegmans where so many people were affected by this, we didn't really realize how many people were dependent upon the
You
food,
mean
the
Walgreens.
food pantry.
Walgreens.
Yeah, Walgreens and Walgreens. The food pantry that was there, it was crazy.
I'd like to make 2 points. At our November meeting in 2024, our treasurer's report said that we only had $32 in the bank.
Yes.
Because we had given all this money away. And there were a lot of collective gasps and, oh, shit. That was one of the best moments I've had since I joined the organization.
Why?
Because we had committed all of this money. And we had nothing left. It was all out there helping people.
There was nothing left.
That's right.
Completely gassed.
It's actually amazing efficiency.
Yeah.
But it speaks to what Russ was talking about. A number of years ago, there was a girl that was hit by a car on a county highway up in Lebanon Township. And I think were you the president then?
Yeah.
And Brian came up with this idea that we could have one single fundraiser to benefit her, Maddie. And in a period of 2 weeks, that project got put together primarily because of Brian's efforts, but everybody else got on board. We had never done a single donee project. We had never specified that the funds for a given event were to go to one place. And how that got organized and put together so quickly, it was an enormous success. And I sat there, and I was part of it, as everybody was, because when you're a part of it, you're a part of it. And it worked to a fare thee well, to your benefit. The highlight of that was that I was at Riley and Jake's last summer, and the girl waited on me, and it was Maddie.
Wow.
And that it puts it all in perspective. And she's a junior in high school. She's a track athlete. She's a great girl, and she works. And we had a lot to do with the fact that she is where she is.
Again, with that, though, it's the little thing you do that you don't know how that snowballs and grows further down the line. So when we do something that is small or doesn't seem hugely significant to anybody else, the impact that it has on the person you do that for has a totally different effect, and then it moves forward.
Well, this is, what you're saying now really hits home to me, because to me that's the essence of unbiased, selfless inspiration, which is you're making an impact, you're creating a ripple that will have an effect in areas you will never fully comprehend, and for which you will never get attribution. And there's something deeply cool about that concept of,
but we don't need attribution.
I think that's the best thing. The stealth nature of what we do, that we can just come in and do something.
So you hit what I've been dying to talk about, because it's one that when I first came aboard, Russ, we were talking about. I had at least maybe more bandwidth than average, right? And I wanted to hype you guys because I was pumped about you guys. I was inspired by what I was joining. I wanted to make my impact by broadcasting and emphasizing this organization, which was up to good things. It was, and there was a real quandary. And it's the quandary that I think continues to persist. There's a natural tendency for a successful group, whether it's a business or a charity or anything, to want to extend further the success that they already have. On the other hand, there's a very clear notion of stealth. I want to say Batman, but it's not Batman because that's darker. There is for sure an underbelly within this organization that very clearly doesn't want the Oscar award. It wants to do for the sake of doing, not for the sake of
and
congratulations.
I don't see there's a conflict there between, like, we still want to have a high profile in the community. So, for example, this is why we're running the 3-day festival coming up in a couple of weeks here in Clinton.
I think we're gaining notoriety through our fundraising activities, not what we do with the funds. Yes. There's a respect for the people that we're helping. You know, we're not just helping people, we're helping neighbors. We're all in this community together. And when we bring a level of understanding of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick to the community, and the community says, hey, those guys are all right, we're going to help them. That's great. We have a golf outing, we have, you know, our parade, and we have our weekend, and it's awesome stuff. And we're good with that. We don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, Shane, what was your favorite give back? Can you think of one that just moved you?
Yeah.
What was it?
They helped me.
How so?
My wife had cancer and was supposed to die. And the bucket list item she had was she never got to go to Disney World with her kids. These guys made that happen.
4 hours I sit in your fucking house. You never mentioned.
It's not really something that comes up right away.
That's amazing. When was that?
A while ago. I don't remember.
Brian, how about you?
There's a young child in Flemington. She was diagnosed with an incurable disease, extremely rare. As a scientist, I was absolutely fascinated by her actual condition, but it was a situation where we knew this girl was not going to get better. We were first approached she wanted a trike because she couldn't ride a two-wheel bicycle because she was losing her coordination ability and so on. And then by the time we got the bike, they said, no, she needs basically a wheelchair. And insurance had already paid for some sort of a kind of a stroller kind of thing, but they would not pay for a wheelchair and they would not pay for a bath chair. And I think this really speaks to a lot of things we do. We kind of fill in the gaps. We work kind of in the gaps of the process of insurance companies and other organizations that help this individual. And since then, we've probably in the 10 years since I've been in the organization, we've helped this child. We got her a fully hospital bed. We got her, everything that she's needed as her condition has deteriorated. And ultimately, there's only going to be one end here. But we gave that family an opportunity to continue on with their lives. They've had another child since. She has a sibling. And rather than this being the one consuming thing in their life, they now have the opportunity to basically to look after their child and enjoy their family as well.
That's amazing. Jim, do you have one?
Yeah. For me, it would also be Maddie, the young lady who was...
Same as what Ken described.
Correct. Yeah, the young lady who was hit by a car. I was involved with a sweat equity project, and that's when shortly after our daughter was born, so I only had one at home. But I was involved in the purchase and transport of a treadmill to Maddie's house. And when we got there...
For rehab and...
Correct. Yeah, she was okay, but as Ken had said, she's a track athlete and wanted to get back into walking and then running and et cetera. So we dropped off the treadmill at the house, and it was Maddie and her mom and maybe a sibling, and the three of us looked at each other and we said, well, we can't just leave a box here. So I called my wife. I said, I'm gonna be home in a couple hours. So we were there for another 3 hours. We assembled the treadmill, and to see the look on the girl's face when she climbed on it and started walking slowly, but that really hit home.
Russ, how about you?
When I left my first meeting, I called my wife crying on the way home because of the impact that this organization has on the community. And I was like, this is where I need to be. We took on a sweat equity project, partnered with the PBA in Flemington. There was a gentleman who was unable to get out of his house. He didn't have ramps. Could no longer walk. So every time he had to leave his house, he had to call the rescue squad to get lifted out of his house to the car, and couldn't get off his front porch. So with the help of the PBA and the Friendly Sons, we were able to get him a ramp so that he could, on his own, go outside. And to think that that is something that we all take it for granted every single day, just to be outside and get off your porch. That one really hit home for me. I was like, when I left that project, and I brought my oldest son with me to work on that project, and he asked me, he's like, why'd we do that? And I was like, to give someone a new life. And that is probably my most memorable one.
Again, you come back to those small things that you don't think about.
Yeah.
They seem so insignificant, but to someone else, they're so major. And then it just grows from there. And listen, none of us are model citizens. No, nobody's ridden.
Speak for yourself.
All right. So let me see. There's some of us are not model citizens. A couple liars in the room. But I mean, I think this organization you can have fun. You can have fun, and we do. We do have fun. It's not like, we all sit around and we're like, oh, let me go home and smash my head against the wall till I can help somebody again. We have fun. We do good things. We do sociable things. We're together, and we're a really tight group. But you can have fun and do good at the same time. They are not exclusive things. So when we look at this organization, we say, okay, we're going to promote Irish culture, and we're going to have a fun time doing it, and we're also going to help people with the benefit that we get from this. And that's where it all comes together. The whole thing ties together in one big, nice package.
I would say
go ahead.
There are many electric moments that I've had watching us perform services and do good for people. But there are two words that keep rolling around in my mind: teamwork and fellowship. That's what we're about. We don't need rewards. We don't need acclaim. We know that there's a project that needs to get done. People will pitch in, be a part of it, and get it done to a point where we all smile when it's over with and say, that worked. And that, to me, is the beauty of this organization. There are people here in this group that I truly enjoy. There's some that I don't enjoy. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. We're all here together.
Oh, man. I mean, this is not where I thought this conversation was going to go, but maybe this is exactly where it was supposed to go. I mean, I can maybe think in my life as a public servant, I don't have many moments of charity like you're describing. One of the most frequent things I hear as a public servant is, oh, you're the mayor or you're on the committee. What a fucking thankless job that is. And the truth is, that's totally false.
Yes, it is.
Because if you really are in the spirit of public service, the gratification that you get from those quiet moments of giving are remarkable. And they are so sparse in this modern world. And I think that maybe this is a truism of being in middle age, where you struggle to make sense of self. You struggle to understand what is my place. For those of us lucky enough to have good careers, hopefully we forged good careers. We've made enough retirement income. We've won that metric, but we haven't necessarily won the metric of giving back, of generativity, of inspiring others to make impacts in ways that we will never fully fathom. And there's something just really remarkable about giving back without accolade, giving back without grandstanding. And that is what drew me, honestly, Shane, to the organization that you described at your house. What I loved about it was that I had never heard of you. That was an asset to me. I love the fact that there were things that were being done by the organization that most people will never know. And it's moving to me. And that's the area that's most it's most important. The brotherhood can be obtained through other channels. You could obtain that brotherhood through pickleball league if you found the right league. But what's amazing is the combination of the brotherhood plus the giving back, and it's very much the fiber of this organization.
I mean, it's everything. Honestly, I mean, again, like you said, a brotherhood's a brotherhood, and you can find a group of guys to do whatever you want. I mean, that's fine. It's the notion of the brotherhood and our mission.
In order to do what the organization does, in this case, you have $125K, let's say, that is disposable, that can be put toward great and terrific and miraculous use.
Closer to 30.
Where do you get
dollars?
Generally speaking, where does the organization get its funding? If you could break it down as a percentage, how would you do it, Brian?
So we have two major fundraisers every year. One is the Irish Festival, which is coming up, and the second is the golf outing. So the surplus that we basically will generate from those events, which are the money comes from sponsorships. For the Irish Festival, it also comes from we're putting on 3 concerts. We used to put on just one event. It was the after party at the Red Mill, and we realized that we put up all these tents every year for the after party, and the sunk cost of putting up the tents for one night is the exact same as putting up for basically a week, because they come in on the Monday or the Tuesday, they put up the tents, they're there all week. And we decided, you know what, we can expand this. We can have multiple events. So we partnered with the Rotary. We have a children's party. We partnered with other organizations in town to use the tents. We partnered with the 5K, the Run of the Mill, that also happens this weekend. And we decided to basically expand to a 3-day festival where we have concerts on the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. We just closed our campaign for sponsorship for the parade and the festival this year, and we brought in over $70,000, probably closer to 80.
That's amazing. How does that compare with prior years?
Oh, the first year we ran the parade in 2014, the whole parade and after party were run on a budget of $20,000.
In terms of after
everything.
Net profit, 20
grand.
No.
That included
there was no net profit.
There was maybe $5,000 profit, but
and
it was
Frank Gallagher's got all of it.
Yeah, but no, it's gone. We
can edit this. We can edit this out. Oh, that was Ken Carberry. Town of Clinton.
Yeah. And that's not including selling any tickets and so on for the events.
So is it fair to say, Brian, that maybe half of the money is coming from the parade weekend, the festival?
Probably this year. I don't know. Me and Jim will have to go head to head on this. But
so Jim Gibson is heading up the golf outing.
So you talk about the golf.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So the golf outing is the largest annual fundraiser. I just want to set the record straight there. However, since Brian has taken over the Irish Festival weekend, he has pushed me to my limits to get our committee to raise more and more and more, which is fun. No, there are no limits.
When is the golf outing?
The golf outing is September 19th,
is it
2025. Do we? I would suggest that you probably want to inquire about joining the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick if you're looking to play in the golf outing.
And why is that? Because it's already full?
It's sold out in one day.
It sold out in one day last year.
I mean,
within 24 hours.
If I'm not right, we had our meeting, opened up to the brothers first.
Correct.
That meeting ended at 9:30. I believe by 8 o'clock the next morning it was gone.
Yes, correct. So to Brian's point about sponsors and the Irish Festival weekend, we did have some annual sponsors that included some reserved spots to the golf outing. So that was imperative for those folks who got into the annual sponsorship when Brian and our team for the festival committee proposed that to the sponsorship in order to have an opportunity to play in our golf outing.
So this is for Brian and for Jim. If people are sufficiently not put off by what they heard in the first 45 minutes of this conversation and they want to give to an organization that can put good money to use, what's the best way for them to do it and make an impact on either the parade, the festival, or the golf outing? how do they do it?
So we have sponsors from $50 all the way up to $10,000. Different sponsors, different levels, different sort of benefits that
We're not want for sponsors.
Oh no,
we always want more. We
We'll take as many as
always
want to
will
come.
take as many as we
The
can.
golf outing is still currently looking
But
for
what we're also, well, with some of these sponsors now are annual sponsors. So they're not just sponsors of the Irish Festival and the Parade. They're also sponsors of the golf outing as well. So they'll be contributing throughout the year.
This book is
And we'll
only
be
40 pages,
portioning.
and Brian would prefer that it be 44.
Or 54 or 84. Take as many as you can get. Yeah.
I wanted to interject something. This is a story I just thought of. There's something that's in conjunction with the Irish Festival, the Run of the Mill, which is on Saturday morning. The first year that we had the Run of the Mill, there was a local girl named Julie Cully who had run in the Olympics or the prior Olympics. And she called me and she said, we want to do a race. How can you help me? I said, Christ, I don't know, but let's go talk to John Cryan. So we went over to Cryan's, and she's a little bit of a slip of a thing. And we walk in, and John said, what do you want? She said, well, we want to run a race. He said, you need beer after the race? She said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll have a keg at the finish line, which he did. And they showed up, woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, putting all the crap up on the street. And I went downstairs, hungover, and her boyfriend, who is now her husband and the father of her children, he said,
That's a good combo, by the way.
and it's,
If you're
really worked
if you're passing those out, it's not so great.
so he said, we have no power. I said, well, use my front porch for the finish line. So they did. And it went off very well, and we had a good time. The following year, once again, John Cryan provided a keg of Guinness for the participants. And same fellow comes across the street and he said, there's no power in the community center for the soup. I said, well, make the soup in my kitchen. So we paraded pots of soup back and forth across Halstead Street. And I got through with the second year, and I had a big smile on my face, and I said, that's what this shit is really all about.
It's true.
And it really felt good to contribute something. And that speaks to where we are and who we are.
So I want to talk about meetings, membership, leadership. This always intrigues me. So I had this fabulous opportunity, I don't know, at this point, maybe 2 years ago. I got the chance to interview you and Shane and talk about the Friendly Sons. And in our township magazine, I did a 2-page article. It was one of my favorite things I've ever written for the township. And let me read you a piece about the organization, about you, Russ. So I said, these days, the organization faces a dilemma of riches, the growing pains associated with expansion. The reins of the organization have been partially handed off to relatively new blood in the hopes that the organization can transition delicately to a new band of brothers and possibly a new brand of existence. Well-bearded Russ Crosby, young, affable, and unmistakably Irish in appearance, is its latest president. And he is well liked by his peers. This was back then.
Mostly.
And the Friendly Sons generation that preceded him. He knows quite well the situation at hand. Quote, we're trying to bring on new membership and add to our reach, but we want to make sure we preserve who we are, Russ notes. Personal relationships are what make this go, and we can't lose our soul. My question to you, Russ, is what is the Friendly Sons' soul?
What's our soul? Well, our soul is everything we talked about tonight. I mean, really, when you break it down to its simplest form, we just want to help people. We want to help them. People are going through tough times, and we as a group of like-minded individuals, have the opportunity to help people. We have the skills to go out and find sponsorships, to run events, to help those people. We have the skills to come together and create events that could help those people. So I think ultimately the soul of this organization is, the soul is kind of like going into any Irish pub on St. Patrick's Day. We want to laugh. We want to have a good time. But ultimately, we want to know that we made a difference in our community. And guys, please jump in.
We've looked at these things that talk about character, we talk about culture, and we talk about community, right? So those three things kind of are equal pillars. Your character is who you are. As an organization, if you're an ass, you're out. That's how it goes. We're a group of guys who are dedicated to do what we do. We take care of business. We get along. But there's not a lot of nonsense with anything messing up the organization. Culture, we're an Irish group. We're definitely Irish in nature. We're running an Irish festival. We're running a St. Patrick's Day parade. We're doing those things because it's part of our background. It's not who we are. We're Americans first, always. Every meeting, every event, everything we have starts with the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. So we are an American group with a shared Irish background, interested in helping our community. And we do that through these endeavors where we try to raise money to help people out. But really, the soul of the organization is the brotherhood. And the brotherhood is the one that reaches into those three pillars to make this whole thing go.
I have to tell you, this is a fascinating experience because the way we're positioned right now, Shane, you're on my left, Russ, you're on my right. You guys are in many ways the epitomization of the old guard and the new guard. Not to say that you're brand spanking new, Russ, but
I wouldn't say I'm old either, by the way.
Well, I think most of us would.
So let me,
except for Ken.
Can I dive?
Ken died 3 years ago. No one told him.
I'd like to dive into that a little bit. When you talk about leadership, because that's what you brought up, David. Leadership is the ability to find the guys or gals in the organization that could take on these tasks, and you give them your vision and let them run with it. And sometimes you have to put up those barriers on the sides because they run with it and they go with it, right? But for the most part, you let them run and do their thing because they're passionate about what they're doing. So I think the leadership in this organization has evolved to another level than it has ever seen.
In 2018, there were a number of us, Brian and I had some conversations. Tom Kochanowski and I had some organizations, and Shane and I had several conversations about the leadership in this group was too old. And we needed to get younger leadership because they had more stamina and more vision than we did. And this is what happened as a result of it. Mm-hmm. We have, in my mind's eye, we have wonderful leadership, but unbelievable stamina and a lot of vision. And that's what we need going forward. If we decide to be twice as big as we are, this is where the leadership will become a part of it.
My evolution of leadership, I've always been a student of leadership. And that is to say it's because I pretty much sucked inherently as a leader when I first started. I was very pig-headed. I thought that my way was the only way. I felt very strongly about that. And it was my task to try to convince you and others that my way was the right way. And it became clearer and clearer to me as I got older that nobody was really following me. They were doing, but they weren't inspired by what I was having to say. And there was an irony to what I learned, and that is your best inspiration is to allow people to inspire themselves. And that took me about 2 decades of failures and foibles and misstarts to get to that revelation. I'm so glad I was a student of leadership. I'm so glad that mattered to me because it allowed me to become a better man. And it requires not only somebody like you, Russ, to lead in the next generation, but I also think it requires an old guard like Shane to let go. And for a lot of people, there is humility in that doesn't necessarily exist. It's frequently laced by ego, by ownership, by status preservation, and I think it requires that changing of the guard and the acceptance of that for that to work.
I just got quieter. I never got out of the way. I'd like to make sure that's very. Russ and I, our relationship obviously is fantastic. I mean, we talk about everything. But understanding, like when we had discussions earlier that we needed new blood, look at where we've gone. Like the guys who were started, the older guys knew we needed that change to happen and looked for that change to happen so that we could continue to grow. Again, exponential growth more than we ever thought. But it's the understanding that, again, it's an organization like this. You bring in good people. So our growth is going to continue because the people we have are good, and we all work together. So you check the ego at the door, and you get the job done. And that really is what it's all about. And then when you're done getting the job done, you drink and laugh.
You're what?
You drink and laugh.
Yeah, egos don't work out well in this organization.
No agendas.
My job right now is to lead the organization, but I don't own it. I want to make it better for the next leader that's coming in. I look forward to handing it off and making it better for the next person who's going to run it. And my hope is the next person that's going to run it is going to take the ball and run with it like we did.
That's funny you say that because I've always sucked at that. What?
It's hard.
I've always viewed as my pinnacle getting to a place where I am self-actualized, where I am creating and am part of an organization that I'm at cause for that is doing extraordinary things. I've never really focused on a succession plan. That has not been my inherent leadership skill. And I have been saying to people for the last 3 years in my world, I'm trying to build a team, politically speaking, that will take over for me when it's my time to get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. And that matters to me because it then makes it no longer about me and what I've accomplished. It turns into something that is generative, that people 10 years from now will look back and actually question my role. And that will be a success because then I'll realize that I didn't communicate my cause in that project. And in that sort of ironic way, I've actually earned success because it wasn't about ownership. It was about moving the ball forward. It was pushing the boulder and doing something that has a degree of anonymity that allows me to be much more actualized than I ever was before. And it's your turn. It's your turn to move.
So this time I'm jumping in though. So in a position of leadership like that, the notion of the group being more important than anything has to be the case. You know, I leave here tonight, get run over by a garbage truck. Guess what they're going to do tomorrow? Same shit they're doing today. You don't have to be the person. You have to perpetuate what the mission is. Mm-hmm. You know, and leadership is not about telling people what to do. It's about being the guy that they'll do it when you ask them. And you push to a point where I don't even have to ask them. And when you get there, then it all flows.
Culture does not create itself when the leader is in the room. Culture happens when the leader is not there.
Man, this is
pretty good.
That's good.
This is such a valuable comment, and it was so hard for me to learn this in my life. I mean, I'm sure most of us in this room are very type A humans. We're probably ENTJs on the Myers-Briggs scale, and we want to accomplish, we want to do good things. I will never forget the learning I got just realizing that my best effect was allowing people to do what they wanted to do, not what I wanted them to do. And gosh, that's such a leadership lesson, which I frequently unlearn in my life. And I need to relearn it every time it happens. So you guys, we collectively chose 2 honorees for this year.
Yeah, hold on. Real quick, David keeps saying you guys and we. David is a member of this organization, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone listening knows that he is a member of this organization and has gone to great lengths to help promote this organization, and we really appreciate it.
I appreciate you appreciating me. I don't.
No, I appreciate you appreciating what I appreciate.
You know, like most of us, we don't feel very deserving of any thanks that we get. But the truth is, it's an amazing extension of my life, and I'm just happy to be part of it. But my role is irrelevant, largely. At least that's how I see it. So let's talk about the parade. So you guys chose as the honorees the Grand Marshal and the Irishman of the Year. Why did you choose these 2 folks, Brian and Russ and Shane? Why did you choose Ken Carberry first?
So I'll jump in. I was the Irishman of the Year last year, and one of the most amazing parts of being Irishman of the Year actually is being brought into the inner circle of the membership of this organization, of this inner sanctum of the organization, of being a past honoree. And the culmination of that is that every December you get together with everybody and you pick next year's honorees. And the process of that actually is a guarded process. So I won't really go into the details of it.
Right.
But
it's like
it was
picking a new pope. No one
it
can know
really, yeah, it was very, very eye-opening,
Look for
very
the white
enlightening. But I think the accomplishments of these 2 gentlemen spoke for themselves. Ken is, as you say, the OG Clinton. He has really, he's so identified with this town. He's given so much to this town, as well as obviously to the Friendly Sons in his role as a trustee, a member of the funding committee. He's been on every committee, every other thing that he's done. When I was president, he was my consigliere. I used to call him probably every week and ask him, what should I do now? You know, what? Because he was a leader. You're still making it up to a certain extent as you go along, and you really rely on people like Shane and Ken to guide you through the process and to mentor you and so on. And he was a huge help in that. Jim, we like to align tasks with skills in the Friendly Sons, and it never comes to such an apotheosis as when Jim joined, and Jim said, "What do you do for a living, Jim?" I said, "Well, I'm a golf course manager." And he says, "You're what?" I said, "Golf course manager." It was a bit like when I joined the Friendly Sons, I just organized a parade in Mystic, Connecticut. And they were putting on the first parade here. So I said, "Okay, Manning, you're in and you're running the parade. Fine, no problem."
Here I show up and they tell you what they do and you kind of look up like, thank you.
So
that was a nice one.
God made them, he matched them, as they say in Ireland. But Jim has taken the golf outing to unimagined heights in execution and organization and efficiency and results in terms of the amount of funding that it raises and the experience that it provides for our patrons for the golf outing as well. So I think both gentlemen were tremendously and hugely deserved.
Ken's been a huge part of the organization as far as especially our liaison with the town. I mean, but he's a great guy. I talked to Ken about more than just Friendly Son stuff. I talked to Ken about life stuff, family stuff. And I think that's something all of us share as well.
So let me talk to Ken and Jim for a sec. So Ken, how's it feel to be the Grand Marshal? What you've been connected to this organization for how long?
13 years.
This is your first time being the Grand Marshal?
Yes.
What is that feeling for you?
I was stunned.
Why?
Because I'm not a part of this for reward or affirmation. I do what I do. It's my part of the team effort. The satisfaction that I derive from that makes me very happy.
independent of accolades.
I don't need the accolades. I don't need that shit.
But how does it feel?
It feels wonderful. It's wonderful that my brethren think that much of me that they gave me this award.
I think what's also fabulous about it is that people love giving it to you.
Absolutely.
How about you, Jim? What's your how long have you been part of the organization?
So I've been in the organization for coming up on 9 years, thereabouts.
And what was that feeling when you were told that you were the Irishman of the Year?
It was tremendous. I was shocked. I mean, and then the fact, knowing where it came from, knowing that it came from guys like Shane and Brian and all of our prior years award winners of the Grand Marshal and Irishman of the Year, that really hits home. Where it's the top folks in the history of the organization that are giving that honor to Ken and myself this year. It really hit home.
It's amazing that you guys are given this respect and this dignity this year, and it sounds like you're both incredibly appreciative, commensurate with the degree to which people are happy to give it to
Dignity
you both.
and I have never been in the same.
There's somebody I also want to mention. Brian Manning is frequently the smartest man in the room. The fact that I think maybe you and I are the only ones who know what apotheosis means. But I think that you, this is a fairly new skin for you to run the festival.
Well, I've been the parade chair or joint parade chair since the inception. I kind of took a step back when I was president of the organization, and then stepped back into it.
But now you're back.
But now for the last 3 years, I've been sort of de facto head of the parade, and in the last 2 years, head of the parade festival.
Tell us about the 3 days, what people should expect on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, so I mentioned before that we basically build a village at the Red Mill. We use the Red Mill Pavilion as a sort of a starting off point, but then we erect about 30,000 square feet of tents around the Red Mill premises that provides the venue for us to have these events. So we started off for several years. We've had the after party there, and now we've expanded to three nights of concerts, ticketed events.
All in Clinton?
All in Clinton, all at the Red Mill Museum Village. So Friday night, the Amish Outlaws, who have been our signature act for the last 3 years at the after party, and we've moved them from Sunday to Friday at their request.
Pub night?
Pub night's the Saturday night. That's the second night with two bands, the Big Fuss and the Rogue Diplomats, with a very much an Irish flavour to the music and to the entertainment. And then on the Sunday after the parade, we have the parade after party where the Nerds will be the signature.
What time is the parade?
The parade will start at 3 o'clock. It'll step off at 3 o'clock on Sunday.
Is parking an issue for folks? Or
we have parking designated throughout the town. If you get there before the roads close, you can park downtown. Mm-hmm. But the main parking will be at the Water Authority at the top of Halstead Street, or the intersection of Route 31 and Halstead Street.
Starts at 3 o'clock.
Starts at 3
Goes
o'clock.
on for about an hour.
About an hour, yep. So
and
it's
then what time is the after party?
Right after the parade finishes. So it opens at 4:30.
Is it free?
It is not. No, you have to buy tickets, $50 a ticket. But your beverages, alcoholic beverages, are included within for your purposes.
What time does it start?
It starts at as soon as the parade finishes. We'll be opening the gates, so about 4 o'clock. Yeah.
And kids are how much, Brian?
Kids are $10, and anybody under that's from 10 to 21, and then under 10 is free.
Okay, got it. Anything else that people should know about the 3 days coming up?
So there's every night at the Red Mill, there will be food trucks available for food purchase. We'll also be selling merchandise, T-shirts, and our famous line of pins. And I do want to also say the reason this will be a success is because I have an unbelievable team with me that run all of the events. And in particular, I have to single out Leo Fry, who is the chair of the Red Mill events committee. So everything that goes on at the Red Mill is under Leo's tutelage and his aegis, and he is an unbelievable planner. He is an engineer, and he absolutely loves the challenge of the weather and the terrain and everything that goes on with running the event there as well. And it's stunning structure that he actually puts up. It's a temporary structure that he erects every year for the Irish Festival. It's absolutely
and
wonderful.
he loves it. Leo loves it.
Yeah. I'm excited for the Irish Festival.
Yeah, but we also have a parade director, Bernie Gallagher, who looks after the parade. We have a deputy parade director, Chris Knoll, this year. We have the facilities chair under Leo, which is Miles Murphy. We have our concert and talent coordinator, Tom Kochanowski. A new addition this year is our sponsorship chair, Tim Hyland. Critically, we have a festival treasurer, which is our Friendly Sons treasurer, Ian Callahan. We run a 50-50 raffle, which last year gave out over $9,000 to the winner, and Alex Fenwick runs that. We have a publicity and merchandise chair, which is Mark Riebling. And then we have two critical people, Ken, who looks after our town relationships, all of our insurance needs. And then we also have a security and police liaison, which is Officer Nick Bruno of Clinton Township.
It's a good machine.
It's a tremendous team.
You built
really
a nice
is.
machine around you, Brian, and Russ and Shane and Jim and Ken. So 2 final questions, and then we're done. What is missing from the group, and what are you striving to achieve on a personal basis? Let's talk about the future. Does anybody want to throw their hat in? Not you, Russ, because you're the...
So very quickly, which was a point we talked about it earlier about like the sustainability of this organization. I think we've all seen in America at large and in New Jersey, a lot of these fraternal organizations getting old and graying, and the membership, almost dwindling out. And we see this firsthand because we actually have our monthly meetings at I don't want to mention it, but we do have our monthly meetings at a place where definitely the membership is challenged by the fact that it's aging out. So the fact that we can bring in new blood, and not just bring in the blood, but blood the new blood and put them into leadership positions and make them part of the organization. There's no shrinking violets. There's no wallflowers in the Friendly Sons. You come in, you join, you volunteer, you get involved. And if you want, you'll be elevated through into leadership roles. And that is critical. We are absolutely critical about the future sustainability and long-term growth of this organization.
Is there anything missing, Brian, for you?
Nothing I can think of offhand. I would love, ultimately, we've all talked about this great grand design, to have our own clubhouse, a place to call our own. I think this is something as we grow that we will look at seriously.
The rest of you, what would you say? Jim, what's missing?
I don't think there's anything one particular that would be missing. I enjoy every bit of our organization and what I put in and what I get out of it. I think just for every event and everything that we do, we just try to tweak it and improve and get a little better, or change one thing here and there, and just keep pushing forward and keep moving forward and getting a little better each year. That's what Brian does with the Irish Festival. That's what our committee does with the golf outing. That's what the executive and the board do with the whole organization. So I don't think there's one thing that's missing. It's just keep improving every year.
Shane, Ken?
I don't think there's anything missing. I think there are things that we can add to the mix that will make it richer.
Like what?
I think we would do well to have a third fundraiser.
So not just the parade, the festival, and the golf outing.
A third fundraiser would, in my mind's eye, would do 2 things. It would raise money, obviously, but perhaps as our leadership grows, we need more opportunity for the membership to become more involved in the projects that we have at hand. And I think the third fundraiser does that.
Sounds like the Hunterdon games to me, Ken.
Yep.
Shane, how about you?
I think where we're going, continuing to balance the age of the group is huge. Continue to keep the youth movement going and to empower them, not to stand in anybody's way, to get them involved. Maybe that's a third project. Maybe who knows what that is, that will come to us. But I think we can't just lock ourselves into where we are. We have to move forward with the mission, but do so with new blood, new growth, new ideas. And we have to stop shutting down new ideas and listen and go forward with it. As far as what we need, I think Brian's right. At some point, it would be great to have a place of our own.
That's awesome. Awesome answer from all of you guys. Well, last question. 10 years from now, assuming Ken Carberry's still alive.
I died 3 years ago.
Where do you see this?
Then.
Who's doing this podcast 10 years from now? And what is the message that's coming across about the Friendly Sons of 2035? What is it that this organization is going to look like?
It's going to change. Change is inevitable. So you want to keep the rails there and see where the rails take you.
But you're open to it.
Well, you have to be. If you're not open to it, you're not going anywhere. So hang on, let's go.
Brian, where do you think we are 10 years from now?
I think we're still in short pants. If you look at the New York Parade has been run for almost 250 years. It's amazing that it's still kept going. It's the longest running parade anywhere in the world. So we're in our 11th year and we're still in our infancy. So I think we can still continue to grow. I think we can still continue to do good, expand.
So we still need diapers and wipes.
Yeah, for a little bit longer. But no, I think we're past the initial sort of
we need him for Ken
storming phase. I think we're kind of like growing up considerably when we have. But no, I would love to see us run bigger events. I would love us to celebrate ourselves as well. To take time for that. Sometimes we just don't. We're so busy organizing that we don't spend enough time just to enjoy each other's company and take time for ourselves. So
isn't that such a truism of just sense of self? Period.
But
right?
I think there's phenomenal things that will happen to this organization going forward.
Jim, how about you?
Well, as far as who would be doing this podcast 10 years from now, it would depend if you move up the ranks of award-winning podcasts.
President for Life Montefusco?
whether David's still doing the podcast here. No, I think knowing the longevity of big parades like New York City and the fact that our Hunterdon County parade can go on for how many ever years, where we're so fortunate that a lot of towns and a lot of areas don't have parades. A golf outing 10 years from now would be coming up on the 28th annual golf outing, and that's unheard of because typically in the industry they plateau at about 10 years, and that's any kind of fundraising golf outing. So something like that would be unheard of. So carrying on those long traditions and adding in some other things in the mix and just keep moving forward would be where I would want to see the organization go.
The vision might change, but the mission will never change. So who will be sitting around here doing a podcast in 10 years? I would say the right people are sitting around doing the podcast in 10 years because this organization won't allow the wrong people to be running it. So I can't name specific people. I can't tell you what that vision might be because of uncertainties in the future. But I can tell you that the mission of the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick of Hunterdon County will remain the same, and we will continue doing what we're doing. Because if we can't do that, then we will not be an organization. And I feel so strongly about what we do here in our community that is not a possibility.
Hopefully, whatever they're doing, they're having fun, they're promoting Irish culture, and they're taking care of community. And that's all we can ask for.
Amen.
It's so funny to think about where we started, right? We started with you talking about Irish dance dads looking for something to occupy your time. And what we're left with at the end of this, or at least in the halftime version of this is trying to understand where this incredible, extraordinary organization, which is comprised of lots of talent, lots of inspiration, is going. I will tell you my personal experience. There's a genuine ooze of kindness. There's an ooze of brotherhood. And I really, really hope that anybody who's listening to this just gets that. That's what I really wanted to have conveyed. This is why I chose this dream team of Christian Leitner and Magic Johnson here. I wanted people to really get what it is that calls me, calls the 5 others in this room, from the oldest of the old to the newest of the new. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of this, an opportunity to give back to a community that needs us, doesn't necessarily know that we're around, but we don't have to have them know that. And that's what's truly amazing. So I want to thank all of you guys for being lighthearted and heavy-handed at the same time, which is pretty amazing. If nothing else, it shows that we're all human and we're trying to make an impact in our world. And if to me, that's the best possible people that I could feature on a podcast. So thank you guys for being part of this.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you, David. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. And come to the St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 16th and start on March 14th and be exhausted just like every Italian mercenary by March 16th.
FSSPHunterdon.com. Buy your tickets.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.